Manhwa welcomes us with views of a gloomy castle. Warrior Vermouth and his 4 brothers-in-arms have traveled to the demon haven of Helmet to battle the demon kings. His brothers-in-arms traveled to the demon haven of Helmet to deal with the demon kings, and out of the 5 kings, they were able to defeat 3. 5 kings, they were able to defeat 3 of them, and it's not surprising with such skills, because the crowd of monsters that appeared before them. The great Vermouth wipes out the crowd of monsters that appeared before him in an instant. But the other members of the squad are not lagging behind in strength either. A hail of all kinds of magic falls on the enemies, and the priestess Saint Anissa can not only heal, but also smash the monsters' heads with a mace if she has to. And if that's not enough, the fearless Morn will chop up the rest with an axe. The last member of the squad comes running forward at full speed and screams that Vermouth is trying to steal all the glory from him again. All the glory in the Oka novelty, he wipes out all the surviving monsters. And this kid's name is Hamil the Tightmel. He's always been jealous of Vermouth and called him, but no one took it seriously. After the whole squad attacks together, Gamel notices that, but the next thing he sees something and rushes towards Vermouth, who receives a powerful blow. Hamil has no time to repel it and covers Vermouth with his body armor. The swordsman had no armor, and it seems that the demon who struck the blow had succeeded, and with a hole in his chest, Vermouth would not live long, seizes the moment and easily chops the demon with a single blow. But alas, this will not heal the wounds of the Gamma, and the hero says that Gamma can't die like this, to which the red-haired squad member replies that it's a very dignified death. In the last moments of his life, Gamel deeply regretted not being sincere with his comrades earlier, and tells Vertu that he must kill all the demons, to which Vermouth not only agrees, he swears on his honor in the hero's name that he will do so. Finally, Hamil asks Anasushi, some young man with blonde hair, stomping his foot on the book in which the story is written. And the story turns out that the blonde guy is a Ga, and no matter how many times he reads this nonsense, he starts to shake every time. He can't understand how he could write so badly. If he finds out who the author of this book is, he'll beat the hell out of him. He gave everyone cool nicknames, Great Wise, Saint Fearless. And why Hamil is tight then? It was written by some guy he beat up 300 years ago, and his comrades. Better did not protect a part of their brother in arms and let this little book exist, though it is unlikely that they suspected that 300 years later their red-haired friend would be reborn with all the memories from his past. In the war against the 5 demon kings, now he's reborn as a descendant of a Vermouth hero. His name is Eugene Lane Hart, and now he's 13. Not only that, but Vermouth had a great many concubines, although Gamer doesn't recall the beloved hero chasing skirts during his lifetime. But the fact remains that he had many children, but Vermouth's direct descendants, only the children of his first wife, are considered direct descendants of Vermouth. They're called the main branch, and although the children from the main and side branches have the same surname NHR, but they are treated differently. For example, children of the side branches are forbidden to practice magic and use real swords until some sort of blood inheritance ritual. So Gamer, or as he is now called Eugene, only trains with a wooden sword, and despite the restrictions, he is very successful in his training because he has skills from his past life. Eugene's father is shocked. His son has ruined the scarecrow again with the wooden sword. With a wooden sword, and his body is inhuman for a 13-year-old. There's nothing childlike in his eyes. Childish, and though he was left without a mother at an early age, he was never sad about it. Well, Gamel himself doesn't think he's fault for the breakage of the scarecrow. Their blacksmith is just a real clueless. How dare he take money for such trash? He should be punished. Well, I don't care. There's only one day left to suffer. Tomorrow is the blood inheritance ritual, which takes place once a decade, all children between the ages of 10 and 15. 15 years old from the main side branches gather in the house of the main family to participate in the ritual, and then the competition for the right to wear the family name begins. The competition for the right to bear the surname of Har, only unlike the side branches, the direct descendants are allowed to train both magic and use real weapons. So the main branch has a significant advantage. Looking at the Lashchenko, the talented child was unlucky enough to be born into a side branch, and to such a talentless father who puts his hands on his son's shoulders. Cross the path of the children of the main branch. He can't handle them. They have magic and real weapons, and no chance. Eugene obediently says, of course he won't. He won't, but he's got other things on his mind. The main branch kids are just a bunch of suckers with whom it's too lazy to even fight in the inheritance ritual. The main branch and 6 from the side branches, the 3 main families include the son of the first wife of the head of the family and twins, from his, except for 2 children from the respected side branches. The rest are just trash, and most wounds healed in a day. The abilities of a body with vermouth blood in its veins exceed his expectations. Watching the training are shocked, but he's also incredibly fast, even though his spear and arms have weighted weights made of sand. The maid's musings are interrupted by the twins, who ask what the asshole is doing here. Nina panics, asks what brings Mr. Tsai and Mrs. Tisil here. But they're not interested in formalities. They're not interested in formalities. I actually asked what the hillbilly was doing here. Eugene. Pausing to ask, doesn't a member of the main branch have his own eyes, or is he practicing with a spear? Is he really? He's an imbecile to ask such stupid questions. He gets mad at such words. Let the redneck apologize immediately. Well, the Eugenia says, I'm sorry. Sure, he's shocked at first, but he quickly gets back on track, saying it's not a fucking apology. Let him bow and show respect. The protagonist asks a reasonable question. Why bow to your friend? Why bow to your friend? Your brother. The fact that they have the same last name, Hart, doesn't make them equal. Sewell, seeing that her brother is a little confused, whispers something in his ear, and with a new charge of anger, he falls out. Let Eugene go and wipe the carriage clean. She smells like shit from a mile away. The protagonist, however, reacts calmly, saying that he has a maid from before, and she'll take care of all this. He didn't like that option. He gave the order to Eugene himself. How dare he shift his duties to delegate his duties to a servant? He doesn't respect his orders. Actually, Ian Hart, the protagonist, in high spirits, replies that he's Eugene Langar, by the way. Nice to meet you, sister also spoils the atmosphere by saying her name is Syl. Nice to meet you too, Sai. Well now, he's even more offended because he's made a fool of himself. That means he won't show mercy today, because the protagonist's insulting him. He's challenging him to a duel. Hamel's not impressed with that at all. To his distant relative, not to throw around such words as duel. Let him leave him alone already. But he doesn't shut up and starts pestering him again, saying that Eugene is obviously afraid. That's okay. Let him just apologize and make a bow, and he'll forgive him. The protagonist is getting a little annoyed. A little annoying, but he has no desire to fight. What's that got to do with being scared to hear a member of the main branch of the family? It seems his words didn't get through, so he keeps saying that our hero is just going to run away, devoid of any honor. Apparently his father didn't teach him how to behave, and he would have been drinking like that for a long time, but a violent rumble from the fallen weights interrupts the duel. So the duel is now only the gamer will take off the sandbags that with their weight even a little presses the ground, let Iku throw down the gauntlet, Or else he's just standing there, talking like the last piece of trash. And Sign begins to realize how heavy the bags were and who he's messing with. He thought they weighed a couple kilos at the most, but he can't back down or his sister's gonna abuse him for the rest of his life. He's the one who challenged him. Now he's got to defend his honor. He has to defend his honor. So now he challenges Eugene Lane Hart to a duel. Well, you don't have to ask twice. The challenge is accepted, and in an instant, our protagonist, the hero, strikes with his spear. Right in Sign's abdomen. He obviously didn't expect that, and flies off a couple of meters. Eugene has won in one blow. His sister is already running to help her brother, but it seems better for him. Just be alone, because the blow turned his stomach inside out. Ciel turns to her brother's abuser and says that he's such a coward, and says she's never seen such cowardice before. There's no honor in this duel. Well, why not, according to the rules? The duel starts the moment the handkerchief touches the ground. That's fair, replies Eugene Sewell. He says that's right. That's right. But the side family member obviously used mana now. They're not allowed to do that. The main character didn't use Manu, so let him keep his theories and accusations to himself. It's fair. It's a fair victory, but my sister is not comforted by such statements. Without mana, he can't swing such a heavy weapon so fast. And his attack was so fast that even if her brother were thrice ready, he wouldn't have the protagonist had her analyze her eyes, and it seems to this day. For looks, but he didn't use magic. Yeah, it's not like her brother didn't do anything at all in this duel, so when the gamer's lance was about to catch up with the goon, he made a dash back. But alas, it didn't help. Although that reaction is impressive, he has potential. He's got potential, but he's a long way from being called a descendant of Vermouth, and that's who everyone's talking about. Saying that Eugene is a coward, the main character wonders if he and his sister would even will come up with the same excuse. Great, instead. Let him just accept defeat with dignity. Accept defeat as a descendant of the Hard family, though looking at the face of the trembling Tsai Hamiel, thinks that he should have held back a little, or he wouldn't have gotten away with such a prank on a member of the main branch. And as if to confirm his words, a man in a suit named Hizar Yin appears behind him in tears and tells him that he had lost in a duel. Looking at our hero, Hizar introduces himself as Teacher Sai, and Eugene introduces himself as well. And after an exchange of pleasantries, the teacher wants to find out what happened. Well, the reincarnated of the branch didn't try to justify himself. It's true, he said that his father didn't teach Mel honor and called him a coward. That's a good reason for a duel, knowing that Eugene is right. Hizar hurriedly takes his ward away, under the pretext of treating his wounds. He says goodbye to the dining room, where he's clearly not denying himself a meal. He is approached by Nina, who has learned that the other 3 participants in the ritual are expected to arrive tomorrow at noon. Will be here tonight, thanks to the portal, a little sooner than he expected. But his plans haven't changed. Hamel's going to serve some of that pesky vermouth to the descendants. Not that he's too keen to be reborn as one of them. It's all about this damn reincarnation. At the same time, Tsang is holding an answer to his mother, the second wife of the main house named Anila, who is incredibly angry that her son challenged her in a duel with a child from a side branch, and she asks her son to come closer to them and hits him with a fan at the point where Gamil traumatized him, asking how he was defeated with 1 punch. Defeated by 1 blow, but he hasn't learned magic. So to which Hizar replies, no doubt Eugene doesn't have magic. Then the mother asks her daughter how Sine lost, her sister, briefly recounts how the fight went, and the mother is shocked the duel really ended. With 1 punch, Sine tries to fight back, but is slapped by but alas, he is her husband's recognized knight. So let him to do what a knight should do to train Sine, so he'll never disgrace her again. This conversation is over. It's over. Let him get out. Alone with her daughter. Her mother tells her to make friends with Eugene. He's strong enough to take on her son. She could kill him if she wanted to, but then she'd be under suspicion. And if there's discord in the family, the guardians of family order will be here, and she can't have that. She can't let that happen. So she has to befriend this boy and keep an eye on him. But she wants to do that. She likes him. So they're going to be good friends, and the mother is very happy to hear that. The next day, 3 boys from the side branches arrived at the manor. Deacon, who is 11, Hans, who is 14, and Juice, who is 10. The patriarch has arrived, which Nina runs to tell the protagonist. She panics he has to change his clothes, but Eugene says if he wastes time, he'll be late, so he'll just go as he is. It's no big deal. Waiting for the patriarch, there's a whole crowd with the patriarch's children, and the first wife Tione with her Lodo's child, who by the way is the first candidate to inherit the title. Of the high horse, the patriarch himself, named Gillard Lane Hart, appears on a brown horse behind him. His brother Kyon Nis says it would be nice if her husband gave her advance warning of his arrival, but giving her advance warning of his own home about coming to your own house sounds like a silly thing to say. So Geller ignored the words and welcomed all his children after that. He congratulates another brother on the birth of a newborn child and finally approaches the children of the side branches. He invites them to a shared meal, and then they discuss the ritual of blood inheritance, where Eugene notices the 2 children who were supposed to come through the portal. Now they're here too. The boy's name is Gars, and the girl's name is Desiree. They come from the most respected side branches of the family, but besides them, sits at the table with a man with long hair, puzzled. Not only the Yugi, but also the members of the main branch and the Kill are asking their father, and who is he? And he's happy to introduce himself. His name is Baron. He's from the Red Tower in the Kingdom of Arat. Everyone is shocked, and the main character spits out his tea. Spit it out. This guy is a master of the Red Tower, which means he's an apprentice. Of the 3rd generation dream, 300 years ago, Senna became the youngest master of the Green Tower of the Magic Tower in the history of the Kingdom of Arat, and she helped not only ordinary wizards, she taught different people, and she didn't skimp on advice, even for the masters of other towers, and to this day the master of the Green Tower, together with the master of the Red Tower, Robrino, consider the price their great mentor. Hamel obviously couldn't have to think that he'd stumble upon a Gillard and tell him that his first wife Tennis had told him that his son had insulted both the honor of Eugene's father and himself. The protagonist says that he did, but he holds no grudge. The patriarch asks if that's because he won the duel, if he had lost, but Eugene says it doesn't matter if he lost, the fault would be his own, that he couldn't defend his honor. Hearing this answer, the head of the family says that Eugene is much wiser than his son, is not at all embarrassed that his own son lost, but he is ashamed that he still hasn't apologized. The duel was his own initiative, but even after the defeat, he couldn't apologize for his words. For his words. Is that what one does at Einhardt's ancestral home? The great Vermouth, after these words with great difficulty, literally squeezing himself out, he asks the protagonist to forgive him, the protagonist to apologize. Not that Gal needed them badly, but it's still a shame. Even after counting to 7, this young man is not able to sincerely admit guilt. Gerd goes on to say that it's a pity he doesn't know Eugene's father, Gerard, personally. The protagonist says that it's understandable that the head of the family doesn't know his father. And as for training, of course his father gave him a base, but he trained on his own. Such statements are very surprising to the children of the side branches, and Gert says that it seems that this time the inheritance ceremony The blood inheritance ceremony will be very interesting. There's a lot of food on the table, and the feast is well underway. We've gathered here to discuss the details of the patriarch's blood inheritance ritual. I'm ashamed to admit it, but in its current form, the ritual is too discriminatory. The children of the side branches have almost no against their rivals from the main branch. The purpose of the ritual is to find a worthy heir to the Vermouth bloodline. It doesn't matter which branch the child is from. When Gami hears that, he's happy. It seems that the descendant of Vermouth is much kinder and more rational than he is. In order to make the ritual as fair and just as possible, the master of the Red Tower has been called here. The Knuft turns the table into a hologram, with a plan of the labyrinth in which the exam will take place. Everyone will enter through different entrances, and the main goal will be to defeat the boss in the center of the maze. And on the way to this very center, they will meet monsters and traps. But in reality, all what's going on inside is just illusions, not reality, but the illusions created by his magic feel very. So if someone defeats the boss, the labyrinth challenge ends immediately, and at the end of the ritual, everyone gets their points, depending on their achievements. But if they can't get out of the labyrinth, or if they're scared, they can just stand there, but they won't get many points. Eugene heard the head of the family who defeats the boss will be able to take any item from the underground. The boss will be able to take any item from the underground treasury of their family, and Gamil is very happy with this answer. Everyone goes away, and he can't stop thinking about the reward, because he has no competition. He's the strongest, but he should have thought about his rivals, because they're waiting for him at the corner of the health center. Asks if the protagonist really defeated Shin, but Eugene is not interested in such questions. Yes, he did beat him. If that's all he's got, he's out of here. A couple of the side families is lost with such disregard for them. Eugene, who by the way is training again, practicing with the ball again, he's hitting pretty fast and powerful shots despite the weights, but his training is interrupted again by two of the sidekicks. The protagonist is getting fed up with the fact that they've come here. The gadget walks menacingly towards Eugene and strips off his clothes. The protagonist is speechless. He's just another imbecile, but the big man wastes no time and offers to touch his breasts. Eugene's gonna say no. Well, that's a wasted opportunity. Actually, the Garza family has a secret muscle-building potion that accelerates muscle growth, depending on the intensity of training, and at the same time, doesn't cause mana production in the human body. It doesn't even have side effects. No. Well, how? He's interested in buying it. The protagonist is really interested in buying it. Why the fuck is being offered to touch a man's chest by a man who's selling some kind of potion, and a girl named Desiree says there are side effects, like the beard can grow regardless of gender. She heard that he used a spear in the battle with Sino. So why is he training with a sword now? Well, the gamer says he doesn't care about sword or spear. He can and does train with all of them. Desiree throws a spear at the protagonist after saying that. She specializes in spears if he wants to fight her. Well, Eugene thinks it's better with nothing with Goma Dream behind him, especially since he wonders how powerful of the higher branch is. He agrees. The fight starts. A suited, bare-chested big guy with a bare torso says he'll be the referee. Let this sparring be fair and just. Such behavior of this mountain of muscle makes the protagonist think he's more of a Moran than a Vermouth. Well, there's no time to think about that. We need to concentrate on the fight, according to his opponent, who doesn't think Eugene can be good with a sword, and a spear at the same time to master the spear. You have to put all your time into it, and she'll show him what it's like. Gadgets announces the start of the fight, and Desiree immediately takes off, but quickly, but quickly stops. Her plan for a quick attack doesn't seem to have come to fruition. Already sees her opponent is completely closed in his defense. Not a single determination. Provokes the girl by asking why she's stopping. They've just started. It's working, and Desiree is really getting angry and launches an attack, but Gamil deflects it, and then deflects another and another and another and another. Dozens of attacks like that. Yeah, our protagonist recognizes her skills are good, but they're certainly not at his level. Eugene continues to try to pressure her opponent. Psychologically, they say that her punches, it's not working. Desiree is angry, but she's already realized. Yuja is not so easy to catch. Attacking is not an option. She has to think of something again. She launches a dozen punches, but Eugene parries them all. Only this time her plan is different. She takes advantage of the protagonist's hesitation and goes behind his back. To block the fight will end right now, but she didn't take into account one detail. Not only weapons can be used, and Gamil's boot rammed Desiree's weapon into the ground. Now the enemy's spear is at her throat, and it's up to the big guy to declare his clear and unequivocal victory, and Gamil goes to sleep in his room. Nevertheless, even after winning the sparring match, no one will leave Gama alone, and in the middle of the night, Gajay offers him a job. The protagonist is angry. He's really just woken up for this. Yes, that's right. So what's his answer? Eugene says, it's nonsense. It's impossible anyway. He's heard. The rules of the ritual, they'll all enter through different entrances. So how can we work here? The big guy says yes. They'll start at different points. But in the center of the dungeon, there's a boss waiting for them. How about tackling him as a team? I'm sure the twins from the main branch will work together too. But the protagonist doesn't think he needs help. Let them leave him alone. Desira, standing at the door, replies that at least Eugene should stop being like that. Pompous Eugene doesn't even realize that they don't need this boss. You can get points in the challenge without defeating him. What difference does it make? Desiree says that in the ritual, never before in its history, has a side branch won. But this time, they have a good chance. They have a very strong roster. Doesn't the protagonist want to defeat the main branch? Well, he's in. At the same time, the standing windows of the Kiva are pondering the purpose of the arrival of the master of the Red Tower. Perhaps he'd like to apprentice Laud, the son of the patriarch's first wife. He's always loved to read and was good at magic. Sword fighting, not so much, but if he becomes an apprentice of the tower, he'll have to leave his father's family. Will grow faster and faster, which means he can't inherit the title of patriarch. The only problem is the ritual. Her children have always been seen as the offspring of a concubine, and it's only through the tenacity of the Akul herself. They were able to establish themselves in the family, but to think her son lost out to some brat from the provinces. Now it would be best if that brat were to pass Labyrinth first. If he is strong enough to defeat all the others, the shame of Tsai now will be forgotten. After 4 days of rest and training, the blood inheritance ritual finally begins. The ritual of blood inheritance finally begins. The magic to be used to create a weapon. Just visualize it, and it will appear. The silly itself immediately creates a rapier, and waving it a little asks if it can break, but no, just like the labyrinth. And the weapon, it's just an illusion created by magic. It can't be damaged. But the girl's curiosity is unbounded, and she asks again if she can create some sort of, instead of a blade. Baron answers that they can create a puppet, or even a golem, but they can't create a living creature. Lot asks why that is so, to which Ray Baron replies that such magic is taboo. Is taboo. Giving life unnaturally is strictly forbidden. The questions are over. Someone creates a two-handed sword, someone creates a spear, someone creates a half-handed sword, and someone creates a one-handed sword. Eugene decides to create a shield and sword, After he's finished creating the weapon, Ciel asks if they meet each other in the dungeon. In the dungeon to fight each other, or as the head of the family answers that there are almost no restrictions. There are almost no restrictions, but cooperation and common sense are very important. Well, now that the discussion is over, let the participants put these talismans around their necks. Too much stress? Then Rory will react. In that case, Baron will intervene personally. Also, if they doubt they can complete the challenge, they can simply carry their finger to the with the necklace. They will be able to leave the labyrinth without risk. That is the end of the briefing, and the participants can enter the dungeon, which they do. The seal wishes the protagonist good luck before entering. Not that he needs it much. Once in the dungeon, Gummel quickly assesses everything in his previous life in the labyrinth. He's been through a lot of labyrinths. The ceiling is blocked, and the space between the walls is quite narrow. That's why he chose the shield and sword. This set fits almost any situation, although it's basically the same. The labyrinth was made for children. He can handle it on his own, and Hamel goes deep into the dungeon. But the other children, some of them are not so sure of themselves. Some of them have already been kicked by the slime and have to call for help. 3 of them have given up. Gillard, with a little scorn in his voice, says they can rest for now. But the other contestants are doing well so far, and the head of the family, along with Rovery, can watch from their tent. Thanks to the magic circles. For example, Gajay is now fighting the goblins, but because of the enormous length of his sword, he cannot strike. Nevertheless, thanks to his monstrous strength, he cuts through the wall, and Desire's tactics are different. She just avoids unnecessary fights. His mother showed him all the traps in the labyrinth, so his brother easily disarms them and passes on. Syl can easily deal with opponents due to her agility, but she didn't memorize the map, so she moves only by intuition. She lacks intuition and experience. Loja's focus is a little off the battle. He's amazed by the magic that created such realistic monsters, although when it comes to fighting, he's also got some. Roran notices Lodo's interest in magic, to which Gilarth says he's been crazy about it since he was a kid. A professor in the capital taught him, but alas, it didn't work out. His mother's callousness influenced his decision to become the next patriarch, and that title is incompatible with his passion for magic. Well, the father himself is all for it. He wants his son to be happy, so if he has, Robin could take him on as an apprentice. The master of the Red Tower says that, out of respect, of course. But if it turns out that the lot is not fit to be his apprentice, it's not going to work out. He just wants Lot to do what he likes to do, because ever since he was a boy, he's respected the stage-wise even more than his own ancestor, Velt Ro Baron, says he was like that. The story of Mrs. Sina is much more interesting to him, but Gillard himself says that his favorite character was not Vermouth Ini Senna, but he couldn't finish, and all because in one of his magic circles, Eugene went one-on-one with a huge troll. The patriarch's attention. The troll, which is about 5 times bigger than the boy, strikes with such force that it cracks on the floor. However, its movements are slow and sluggish, so Eugene, with great speed, and the patriarch and the tower master are shocked that the young man can move like that. His abilities are astounding. In just over a minute, Eugene Lane. Hart defeats the huge troll standing in front of him, and he's only 13. I don't think he's ever. Roran also didn't think that a child could beat a troll head-on, and this one was bigger than he thought, that the contestants would have to come up with tricks to defeat such a monster. In a head-on fight is impressive. Kids like Eugene are usually called geniuses, but Gajesa has a problem. Gajesa's problem is much bigger than that. The dungeon has clearly taken a toll on him. The number of wounds on his body is enormous. Yet after the troll's blow, he's still on his feet, gathering all his strength into a healthy fist and rushing forward for one last attack. Troll tries to sew him up with his fist, but the knight dodges in time and cuts off the monster's leg. The monster's off-balance leg is no longer a threat, and the gadget quickly climbs on top of it and kills the monster with a stabbing blow to the heart. But after such a victory, he has almost no strength left, the body of which he was so proud. Now covered in wounds and abrasions, he has fallen into several traps at once, and barely survived a fight with a troll. I don't think anyone got much farther than he did. The big man falls without knowledge. Zaina's approach is quite different. Immediately realizes that he can't win, so he distracts the beast with a stone and calmly runs further away, where he runs into his sister. If they met here, it means the center is near. Well, it's all right. If his sister just follows him, they won't be forgotten. After the disgrace of the duel, determined to raise his reputation, he may not get another chance to impress his sister. And that's the opportunity. If the whole labyrinth is an illusion, then there could be any kind of monsters. Yes, her brother answers that the question is strange and stupid. Of course, there could be any kind of monsters. Why did she even ask that? Yes, she did. She just asked it. But then there could be ghosts too. Of course, he's not afraid of them at all, not even a little bit, and he's sure to defeat them all. But when he suddenly meets a bloody silhouette on the bend, a bloody silhouette, all his show-offs go to waste. He just screams like a little girl, but he's not scared. It's not a ghost, it's just a wounded Desiree. He's still screaming at her for daring to scare his main branch member, but Desiree's? What the fuck is he yelling about? And she's only bleeding so much because she got caught in a trap and bumped her head, but she wasn't really scared. It was just a failed ambush attempt. And now that it's failed, Desiree is trying to escape her father's seer, though they didn't have any intention of doing so at first. But now they're after her. Desiree thinks she can't handle two men. Where's her muscle-headed comrade? But she hardly knows he's been out for a long time. Alone, and she gets trapped, but somehow, by falling blocks. She makes it to the other side and runs on. But Sai, well, there's no way you can jump over a chasm like that. There's no way to jump over it. He has to go around it, but he can't go that way. It'll be an embarrassment to his sister. It would be an embarrassment in front of his sister. There's no choice. He'd like to save more mana for the boss battle, but he has to use some. He uses it to speed up. At this speed, although it's hard to do, he has the honored member of the main branch again failed, continuing the chase. Eventually, the three of them reach the labyrinth where the boss is, except that this beast is not the only living thing in the room. Eugene is already tired of waiting for them, and why they all came running together is so uninteresting. I'm shocked how our protagonist is already here. What's he doing here? The answer is simple. He's just waiting for him. I wonder who's gonna get here first. Besides him, of course. Desiree says that, since he's waiting. To wait and not kill the boss, he accepts the offer to team up with him. Now they will fight the twins shoulder to shoulder, and then the boss. Yes, Gamil. He says he remembers something like that. But no, he's just here to let the others try their hand. It's not hard for him to give such a pathetic monster anyway, but it wouldn't be fair to the others. They've worked so hard to put so much effort into their training, and all because in one of his magic circles, Eugene went one-on-one with a huge troll. The patriarch's attention, the troll, which is about 5 times bigger than the boy, strikes with such force that it cracks on the floor. However, its movements are slow and sluggish, so Eugene, with great speed, and the patriarch and the tower master are shocked that the young man can move like that. His abilities are astounding. In just over a minute, Eugene Lane. Hart defeats the huge troll standing in front of him, and he's only 13. I don't think he's ever roared, also didn't think that a child could beat a troll head-on, and this one was bigger than he thought that the contestants would have to come up with tricks to defeat such a monster. In a head-on fight is impressive. Kids like Eugene are usually called geniuses. But Gajesa has a problem. Gajesa's problem is much bigger than that. The dungeon has clearly taken a toll on him. The number of wounds on his body is enormous. Yet after the troll's blow, he's still on his feet, gathering all his strength into a healthy fist and rushing forward for one last attack. Troll tries to sew him up with his fist, but the knight dodges in time and cuts off the monster's leg. The monster's off-balance leg is no longer a threat, and the gadget quickly climbs on top of it and kills the monster with a stabbing blow to the heart. But after such a victory, he has almost no strength left, the body of which he was so proud. Now covered in wounds and abrasions, he has fallen into several traps at once and barely survived a fight with a troll. I don't think anyone got much farther than he did. The big man falls without knowledge. Tsai Na's approach is quite different. Immediately realizes that he can't win, so he distracts the beast with a stone and calmly runs further away, where he runs into his sister. If they met here, it means the center is near. Well, it's all right. If his sister just follows him, they won't be forgotten. After the disgrace of the duel, determined to raise his reputation, he may not get another chance to impress his sister, and that's the opportunity. If the whole labyrinth is an illusion, then there could be any kind of monsters. Yes, her brother. Answers that the question is strange and stupid. Of course, there could be any kind of monsters. Why did she even ask that? Yes, she did. She just asked it. But then there could be ghosts too. Of course, he's not afraid of them at all. Not even a little bit. And he's sure to defeat them all. But when he suddenly meets a bloody silhouette on the bend, a bloody silhouette, all his show-offs go to waste. He just screams like a little girl. But he's not scared. It's not a ghost. It's just a wounded Desiree. Sign is he's still screaming at her for daring to scare his main branch member. But Desiree's, what the fuck is he yelling about? And she's only bleeding so much because she got caught in a trap. And bumped her head, but she wasn't really scared. It was just a failed ambush attempt. And now that it's failed, Desiree is trying to escape her father's seer, though they didn't have any intention of doing so at first. But now they're after her. Desiree thinks she can't handle two men. Where's her muscle-headed comrade? But she hardly knows he's been out for a long time. Alone, and she gets trapped, but somehow, by falling blocks. She makes it to the other side and runs on. But Sai, well, there's no way you can jump over a chasm like that. There's no way to jump over it. He has to go around it, but he can't go that way. It'll be an embarrassment to his sister. It would be an embarrassment in front of his sister. There's no choice. He'd like to save more mana for the boss battle, but he has to use some. He uses it to speed up. At this speed, although it's hard to do, he has the honored member of the main branch again failed, continuing the chase. Eventually, the three of them reach the labyrinth where the boss is, except that this beast is not the only living thing in the room. Eugene is already tired of waiting for them, and why they all came running together is so uninteresting. I'm shocked how our protagonist is already here. What's he doing here? The answer is simple. He's just waiting for him. I wonder who's going to get here first, besides him. Of course, Desiree says that since he's waiting. To wait and not kill the boss, he accepts the offer to team up with him. Now they will fight the twins, shoulder to shoulder, and then the boss. Yes, Camille. He says he remembers something like that. But no, he's just here to let the others try their hand. It's not hard for him to give such a pathetic monster anyway, but it wouldn't be fair to the others. They've worked so hard to put so much effort into their training. Mino strikes with his fist, but his speed is clearly not enough. The member of the sideline easily dodges. Taking advantage of the moment Gamil is going for the Minotaur's arm. The Minotaur's arm and tries to stop him, but the protagonist is too fast, and in an instant he's on the head of a huge bull. The monster tries to get Yurkov young man with his fist, but in vain he succeeds in hitting only himself on the face. Himself in the face, but Gamil takes advantage of this confusion, and with all his might, he strikes first one blow, and then several more. This barrage is so unintentional. Eugene concentrates on a single point on the carotid artery, and with all his strength for the final blow, Galu has enough strength to plunge his sword deep into the monster's neck. The carotid artery is severed, and the fight is over. It's only a pity I got dirty in green blood. Well, I've seen how to fight. Eugene didn't scratch his tongue. He just finished off the enemy. That's what real warriors do. Real warriors. Science says that if he didn't know he had the aura of the sword, he would have won. He would have won too. Yes, he did have a chance of success, but he realizes, even with the aura, it wouldn't have been as easy as Eugene's. Without it, it's just impressive after defeating a boss weapon. Yeah, and the whole labyrinth is starting to fade. The blood inheritance ritual is over. The Gilliard is glowing. Part of what makes this kid so talented. Eugene is amazing, and he hasn't even practiced magic yet. Still, the Minotaur didn't stand a chance. Here, that's what the little Ryan says. Yeah, he didn't stand a chance. It's strange. It's very difficult to deal with a Minotaur alone. This challenge was all about teamwork. The kids had to come up with different tactics. To come up with different tactics to defeat the monster. But it didn't go according to plan. What is this guy all about? Gillart replies that since Eugene arrived at the manor, he's spent all his time training the patriarch. So impressed that he sent his men to the young man's hometown to find out who he was, and even there Eugene is known for his tenacity, a kid with incredible physical attributes, and a character to match his body. Very lucky to find such a diamond during the ritual, but the Tower Master asks if the patriarch isn't upset. This boy is more talented than his own children, considering the huge gap that exists now. Realize that once Eugene begins to master Manu, the gap will widen, but Geilarth sees nothing wrong with that. So the word of the Heartline will shine even brighter. Yes, it will, but this young man, he may well want to become a patriarch. And what then? Well, the current patriarch says, well, the title should go to the strongest. If his children can't compete with Eugene, there's nothing to be done. If they're so weak that they can't defend their birthright, then none of them are worthy to be the head of the Light family. All right, so be it, but the Master of the Red Tower still has one piece of advice. Let the Gillarth adopt this child, because the news that a child from a side branch is going to become patriarch is not very good. Plotting against the main family. Well, the head of the family will definitely take this idea into account, but he will think about it. But he'll think about it later. Now we have to congratulate the candidates.